One of the most commonly asked questions I get is, how tall are you? And probably the second question would be is, do you play basketball? And then you have all kinds of questions like, how's the air up there? What's the weather like up there? How do you find clothes? Where do you get your shoes? In fact, I'm not that huge. I am just a little under 6'8" tall. And I realize that that is quite big, and in slang terms you would be called a footer. Usually that's reserved for people like 7 foot or taller, but you know, not everybody today walking around is as tall as I am. So I understand the fascination and the awe, but today I would just like to spend a little bit of time explaining what it's like, and how everybody else who is in that 6 foot and under range, how I don't think you just understand how good you guys have it. It's a blessing for you. Everybody always says, I wish I was tall like you, and you know, things like that, and that might sound good in theory, but I assure you, you don't want to be tall. There's so many reasons, and it's not everything that you think it is. It's cracked up to be. Clothes are more expensive and harder to find. You can't just walk into any shoe store and get shoes you want. As soon as your feet are above size 13, then you're on the hunt for shoes. It's very, very hard to find. Normally when I find a pair of shoes, my size, I wear size 15. So normally when I buy them, if I have the money, if I see them, sorry, if I find them and I have the money, then I buy them. Places like the Shoe Company and Payless and all of these kinds of places, in the back corner in the room, they have the, you know, I always refer to it as the freak section. And that's because, you know, usually I'm the only one in that section, and it's because that's where all the huge shoes are. And sometimes you'll see like size 18 and 20 and 22 and all of this craziness, but you know, the choice is minimal. There's not a lot of selection, and they're not very nice looking. But when I find a pair, you know, I gotta buy them. Things like, what else do you guys take for advantage? You can just walk into any store and get clothes off the rack, and you know, I have the advantage now. Even this shirt, like I got this at Old Navy. These jeans I got at Old Navy, and that's only because I lost a little bit of weight. You know, if your waist size is above 38, 40, you're not buying clothes at Old Navy. But the price is right. The other thing that I could think of off the top of my head is when I take a shower. All of you can just stand underneath your shower. If you don't have one of those rain shower heads, you can just stand under your shower and you can just wash off your hair, and it runs off your head and everything. You just put your head back and it feels nice. That's not the position I'm in when I take a shower. When I got soap in my head, I'm at a full bend. This is my position. Full bend to get the soap off my head. The shower head literally sprays me in the middle of the chest. You guys have no idea what it's like being a footer. Growing up, when you start paying interest into the opposite sex, there's not very many of them walking around who are, you know, at this range or higher. And so, you know, all the times if you're back in the day when you're in school dances and stuff like that, the same position in the shower is the same position when you were dancing with a girl in school. You'd be literally, my head would be resting on top of their heads, and that's what it's like with my wife too right now. You know, whenever we're hugging or whatever, her head is right here, and I can just put my chin right on her head. I know that everything, it sounds good, and everybody wants to be tall, and everybody wants to be taller, and all of these other things, but let me remind you of this. I am in the 6'8" range, and most doorways are in about the 6'7" range, 6'8" range, in about there. It ranges. Varying houses have different door sizes and things like that. Let me tell you, I've spent a lot of time in this position, in pain and agony, because I have cracked the top of my head right here so many times on doorways. It's unbelievable. I don't know how I wasn't knocked unconscious in some cases. So just remember that the next time you walk through your doorway, and you don't have to duck, because I duck through every doorway. Even if it's 10 feet tall, I still duck just out of instinct. One other example I'll give you is, I remember when I started taking the TTC in high school days, I was in the 6'5", 6'6" range. And I was, one of the first few times I was on the bus, I walked up the stairs in the door, put my ticket in the thing, and turned around to walk into the bus, and I smashed the top of my head off of the stop request sign. Back in the day when they first started hanging them in the bus, they were hanging like this far off of the ceiling. And so I turned around to walk down the aisle of the bus and smashed my head like crap. I was surprised the sign didn't break off. And it hurt, and everybody looked at me, and people were laughing and smiling and got a big laugh about it, while I sat in the back of the bus with like a concussion, wondering if I was going to make it to the end of the trip. So, you know, next time you see a tall person and you admire them and all of these, think twice before you ask or tell them that you want to be tall like them. Just because it's nice that I can get things off the shelf, that's all fine and dandy off high bookcases and cupboards and things like that. But let me tell you something, with the pain in my back, if something was to fall into the floor and you were looking at me like I was going to pick it up, I'm sorry, but you're on your own.